Stranger than fiction news.
Because truth is stranger than fiction.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about e-zombies and digital dementia, among other things. I've said it before and I will say it again. Innovation is the product of a wicked hand. All of our technology is punishment in disguise. It all has a side effect. Take the oil industry. We pump death right from the ground and then pump it right back into the air. Literally. Oil is a liquid graveyard, and that's why it's called a fossil fuel. Oil is liquid death. Think of how many products are made today with that liquid death oil. Everything made of plastic, everything that runs on gas, everything that we use today is based on death. It's astonishing. And it's contaminating our world in more ways than we can imagine. In last week's broadcasts, I discussed how the relentless increase of pollutants in the air will transform megacities into literal no-go dead zones due to a lack of sufficient oxygen supplies. Just like the dead zones we find in our oceans today. Chemical weather is a trend you should definitely be looking into right now, because there are thousands, if not millions of people each year that perish due to pollution. I have also previously discussed the alarming discoveries linking our innovation to what scientists refer to as the runaway clathrate effect, an effect that is now forecasted to extinguish life on Earth in less than 35 years due to runaway climate change. That's on white paper. You can find that on Google. That is a matter of public record. And so, to say the least, those two episodes talking about the runaway clathrate effect and megacities turning into dead zones are episodes you don't want to miss. But these facts are so alarming. It's amazing that this information hasn't already gone viral. The fact that people are talking about anything else is proof of our stupidity. Our extinction is but 2 generations away, yet half the population contents itself on being distracted by mindless fluff. How many people die each year from terrorists? A couple thousand? In 35 years, 7 billion people are going to be wiped off the map. Where are our priorities? Our population is being stifled by mass mental illness, and it's caused by our technology, by our innovation. It is punishment in disguise. This mass mental illness is 1 part dementia and 2 parts brainwashing. Allow me to elaborate. Last year, media outlets were headlining variants of this article. Quote, "Doctors have reported a surge in cases of digital dementia among young people. They say that teenagers have become so reliant on digital technology, they are no longer able to remember everyday details such as their phone number. South Korean experts have found that those who rely more on technology suffer a deterioration in cognitive abilities more commonly seen in patients who have suffered a head injury or psychiatric illness." So basically, our technology is a psychiatric illness. And what these articles are saying is that when you use a computer, you are outsourcing your mental activity. You either use it or lose it. And that's the real problem here. We've become so dependent on technology that we're unable to see the real danger coming our way. And we're so dependent on the propaganda, so dependent on the corporate-sponsored message that gets pumped through the innovated airwaves that we just don't see the truth. We're not getting any truth. We get mindless garbage promoting sports, smut, and consumerism. Technology is a Trojan horse, my friends. It is made of death. It accelerates death. And it will wipe every human right off the map if we let it. So become aware. Make others aware. Being pro whatever the mainstream throws at you is like falling into a trap. The end of the world won't be from an asteroid. It will be from greedy corporations. Greedy corporations that are run by evil people. Evil people who treat our air and our water like an open sewer. Would you dump toxic chemicals into your local river? Those people do it every day, and every time we use their products or their services, we are enabling them to do it even more. That's why it's important to think about these issues, to spend your time on these issues rather than being part of the system. The status quo is unsustainable, and unless a revolution rocks our way of thinking like a tidal wave, we're all going to be dinosaurs in the fossil record.
I spent years working in toxicology and epidemiology, and I knew very little about this issue when I first encountered it when my first grandchild was born. And I became very interested in how bright he was, he still is, and how quickly he, at 9 months of age, could crawl over, take a cell phone, turn it on, and play a game. And as I began to look into what was known about the developing brain, I became shocked. Because
well, that's a whole other area. The studies are legion, and even mainline medical doctors like yourself and others are saying, do not give kids these. They're wiring their brains. It's wiring them in a bad way. And then I go to the grocery store or I go to a restaurant, nobody's kids are talking to mommy and daddy now. They are on these tablets. They are on these phones. And then you got smart meters on the house radiating us. All the new appliances are hooked into it. And this is a totally unstudied area, as you were saying, and it's just ubiquitous now. We're being bathed. Google's launching blimps and drones that are going to bring in microwave communication everywhere. We're
calling for something called the Baby Safe Project with the head of OBGYN at Yale University, Dr. Hugh Taylor, who is the chief of obstetrics and gynecology there, and a number of other prominent doctors, including Andrew Weil. And the Baby Safe Project basically says pregnant women should avoid direct exposure to the pregnant abdomen from cell phones and from tablets, because we know that anything held directly on the body is going to get into the body. Let me tell you something about tablets. All of these tablets being used in all of these schools around this country, being sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. The tablet is tested to be used on a table 20 centimeters from an adult male body. They are not supposed to be held by young children. And what we tell people is disconnect from the internet. If you must give a wireless device to a child, whether a phone or a tablet, make sure it's no longer on the internet. Put it on airplane mode and recognize something. If you go to our website, ehtrust.org, you will find on that site clear information about digital dementia, which has occurred in Korean children, so that the Korean psychiatrists are warning about this. It's a lack of development of the brain.
The government's trying to ban kids now on their screen time in Korea because it's literally turning them into zombies.
I actually have a column on Huffington Post on e-zombies, and I would really appreciate your linking to that information, as well as on our website. We've got stories about this that are very important for people to understand. You're not doing your child a favor if he learns to read at age 3 or 4 by glued to a screen. That's when children need to be held. That's when they need to be talked to. That's when they need to learn how to use their fine, stubby fingers and coordinate their eyes and their hands. And if we raise a generation that's digitally sophisticated at these young ages, we are short-circuiting some of the brain development that neuropsychiatrists understand is quite critical. We are creating a generation that lacks the ability to have empathy, that lacks the ability to look you in the eye and anticipate the consequences of actions. Think about what that would mean.
It's almost like artificial sociopaths. And that's what I'm seeing with people that have just the last 10 years been on iPhones and on tablets and things. People don't talk. We've all seen the film footage, people falling into fountains or walking into streets. And it literally is creating a bunch of unconnected type people. And then you were mentioning, Doctor, some of the studies out there of what screen time's doing to little kids.
Right. And in fact, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends no screen time for children under the age of 2 at all, and then limited use afterwards. And Israel, with all the things going on in Israel right now, they just this week launched a website in Hebrew, but it can be translated, with safety information for parents and children, because they are so deeply concerned about the use of this device. And in Israel, they recommend no Wi-Fi in kindergartens and with young children whatsoever. And we are blanketing our schools with Wi-Fi without realizing that there is no proof that digital learning actually teaches children things that they retain, and that the old-fashioned way of learning with reading and pencil and paper and crayon really works for the brain. It's not just a question of being old-fashioned and hanging on to basic reading, writing, arithmetic. That way of learning where a child...
Sure, I mean, it's genetic that we've always done it that way, so that's how our brain gets activated. I don't even know how humanity's going to survive this. I want to ask you where you think it's all going, Doctor. Amazing. ehtrust.org. When we come back, we'll plug that website one more time.
What microwave radiation does, in the most simplistic term, is very similar to what happens to your food. When you put your food in a microwave oven, it's essentially cooking the brain.
If you've ever put a cell phone to your ear, you should listen to what neurosurgeon Dr. Keith Black has to say.
There's no way to say that cell phone use is safe. I think that the public has a right to know that there could be a potential risk. Environmental factors take decades to see their effect, not a few years.
So if it may take decades to get a clearer answer, what can we say about cell phone safety now?
All right, now tonight's top story, your lifeline to the world is being linked to cancer.
This is the story that we have been talking about all day. Should we really be concerned about using our cell phones? Stephanie, what do you have to say?
Well, Cherie, Jack, we've all wondered if our cell phones are passing radiation through our bodies. And tonight, the doctors we talked to confirm there's enough evidence.
This is well recognized now as a possible risk to cancer. So the most vulnerable age group are going to be children, and more kids are using these cell phones.
Tu showed us his computer model, which shows us how much radio frequency children can absorb. It's enough for Tu to realize consumers should be alerted and aware.
In children, their skull is thinner, their scalp is thinner, so the microwave radiation can penetrate deeper into the brain of children and young adults. And their cells are dividing at a much faster rate, so the impact of the microwave radiation can be much larger.
And here's something else that might surprise you. The cell manufacturers themselves actually advise against putting the cell phone right next to your head or really anywhere in your body.
So if we start the microwave, you can see here, just so you know how this works. At first, the magnetic is the most dangerous, so that's what we're going to check. So we set it to 0 to 3. When you get to 3, that's the red zone. That's considered the most dangerous. Anything that has magnetic range of past 3 is considered very dangerous. Once it gets to 3, you go to the top range, and that goes from 3 to 100. But right since 3, that's considered very dangerous. So all this is dangerous. Obviously, the more close to 100 or better is the more dangerous. So we're going to start the microwave, see what happens. Okay, so immediately goes right to 3. So let's go to 0 to 100 range, and it's still way past 100. So obviously, the closer, the worse it is. So as we come further back, we'll see how far it stays past 100. This is considered extremely dangerous.
So let me show you the readings here. This is showing you the electric fields coming off this high voltage line, right here, in volts per meter. Well, that's almost 600 volts per meter. Precautionary levels, sorry for the bad camera work, precautionary levels are 10 to 20 volts per meter, according to building biologists. I'm going to back up pretty much to where this business is. You can see we're still over 100 volts per meter. I don't know what it's like inside the office, but this would definitely be a precautionary situation. And watch what happens when I walk closer to being underneath the high voltage line. You see that? And here I am in relation to the high voltage line. I'm just standing almost right under it.